Hey, 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 hey. So, walking down to the gym as per usual. I thought I was going to talk a little bit about my experiences working with Firebase. Some stuff that I've found while I was working and, just talk a little bit about it. So, to give you a very small backstory, the reason why I use Firebase as of right now is that I have my own startup and I have been working on it for a few years now. And basically we came to a point where it became like the server side part of the system became more and more complex, because the original, I have gone through a few iterations of it now, and I realized that I got developer fatigue basically. And what I think of it as you're just very tired all the time, and the system has grown big enough that you spend almost more time just running things and putting things in like Docker containers and doing microservices and all that stuff, and you finally just kind of go, I don't have the energy for this anymore. It must be a simpler way. And so I looked at, after a recommendation from one of my old bosses who had been playing around with Amazon's API gateway and the cloud functions that they use. I started playing with that a little bit, but I felt that Amazon is not that great at making things accessible and easy for you. I don't think so. It might be that I didn't give it enough of a try, but I didn't really like it all that much. I still think there is absolutely a use case for it. I'm not saying that you can't make it work, and then there are frameworks such as serverless that's probably going to make that a lot easier, but Amazon isn't really a UX type of company. The user experience for most of their stuff isn't that great, although they're very powerful. Like, they have a really powerful platform with a lot of support for a lot of different stuff. So I suppose that's at least something that mitigates the poor user experience. Anywho, so I started looking at Firebase, and in essence I found it very enjoyable. Like, I have to say, I used to be this type of person who, and I still am very much, I don't like the idea of being too dependent on other services and external things. I like to kind of control my own environment to the greatest extent that is possible. But I have a colleague who has his own company, which is, it's much more successful than mine, and he's been running that for 10 years. And he said that, he tries to externalize as much as possible, because, as the system grows larger and larger, although you're going to have to pay somebody else to do certain things, such as maintaining image processing and all these other services, it takes away from the overhead of having to run everything yourself. And he said that for him, who is there are two people on his company and he's the only developer, he said it's invaluable to the company that he can do this, because otherwise he would have to have one person per thing he wants to build. It would take so much longer to build everything. And so I tried to kind of forget about the warnings some people give us about vendor lock-in and so forth, and just kind of see what happens, and instead of have the mentality that, well, a system that nobody uses, or a system that doesn't really build something. I mean, if you need to migrate, if the system grows so large that you realize that, hey, I'm getting scammed by Google or Firebase and so forth, and I need to migrate my entire application because I'm going to make more money of it. To me, that sounds like a luxury problem. That is, to me, a luxury problem. I mean, if there are companies who rewrite their entire code base for hundreds of millions just because they find that, we can make a small percentage or an increase in revenue. In my opinion, if I ever get that far, that's a luxury problem. But right now, I need speed, I need peace of mind, I need to be able to move quickly. And I found that Firebase lets me do that quite fast actually. Like it's very easy to use, I have to say. Like sending push notifications and if you're doing mobile application development, and there is one thing I don't like, or sorry, there's two things I don't like about Firebase, but everything else is pretty nice. Like the interfaces are fairly intuitive, it's very easy for you to use. I mean, it feels very, like if you are a beginner programmer, or if you want to start your own company based on like a mobile app, or it doesn't have to be a mobile app, but you know, if you're ever considering doing this, then I highly recommend you taking a look at Firebase, especially now that they have support for Google Cloud Functions, which are still in beta. I want them to like have better support, because like most of the reason I use Firebase is because they have Google Cloud Functions. You don't necessarily have to have everything in Google Cloud Functions, but I kind of wanted to go that route, mostly because I didn't want to put all the logic on the client. And originally Firebase was very much, you know, you put your business logic on the client side, and I didn't really want to do that, but thanks to the cloud functions I don't have to. So anywho, sorry, a lot of cars. So the thing that I like, the best thing about Firebase is that it's very easy to get started very quickly. Like the documentation is fairly brief. You get a lot of stuff for free, like authentication strategies. You get that almost for free. And as I said, the documentation is very good. And then you get deployment and a really nice web interface for your databases. It also monitors crashes for your application. You know, not that my applications ever crash, but all of that very nice. I highly recommend you go and take a look at the dashboard. It feels very like intuitive, and for the most part it's a great starting point. And the best part about it, which is probably the thing that's going to sell you, is that when you start out with your small little app idea, this is free. I'm running on the free tier, and we have a few users, and not major usage numbers so far, but we do, and we can run that, as I said, on the free tier, which means that, you know, it doesn't cost you anything. If you want to run a server or something, you pay for that uptime. This is per request, and that's pretty cool. I think it's a great way for you to get started with an idea and see if you can make something of it. And as you grow, of course, and that's the business plan, of course. So sooner or later, the system grows so big that you get invested into the platform, and then they have the vendor locking, and they will, you know, keep in their little corporate box or whatever. But yeah, the thing that I don't like about Firebase, and I don't think that, hopefully they'll fix it. I don't know if they can, for the one thing, but first and foremost, when you use their CLI, I use the npm package for I think it's Firebase Tools or Firebase Admin or something like that. When I have my Google Cloud Functions and I want to deploy functions, I can't specify what functions I want to deploy. So right now, because I'm on the free tier, if I want to deploy like 20 functions or something like that, I'm hitting the cap of what the free tier allows, which means that I basically have to keep on pushing my functions to the repository at Firebase until it magically picks up the function that I want to push. So you push everything, and then you just cross your fingers and hope that it's going to push the function that you want. I might be doing something wrong, but that would be great. I couldn't find anything that allowed me to just say that, hey, I want to push this specific function. Don't push everything, just push this thing. So that's something I would really like to see. And then I also, and this is probably because they have basically a live database, a dynamically updating database system. Because of the way that the database system works in Firebase, you're very limited in terms of what you can search for. Like I found that it was very difficult to do compound index searches such as, hey, I want all users who have this name and joined on this date, and like database queries are a little bit limited. So what I found is that if you use Firebase, put some extra time and effort into learning how they recommend you structure your data in the database, because it's a bit different from what you would expect from a traditional database. So I'm not going to say anything more than that because I'm not an expert, but I did find that I did have to trick around a little bit with certain data structures and like duplicate data in some places just to make the database the data schemas that I use work in a way that was compatible with the system. So those are the only two things. Otherwise, it's a great thing. I really highly recommend, especially if you're just starting out. So play around with it. It's for free virtually. So there's no reason for you not to, create a small application and see what the service is all about.